The house stood alone, like an island in a sea of corn. Its angular modern walls clashed with the golden fields that surrounded it. On the outside, it was clean, white, minimalist, but on the inside, it pulsed with silence, like a heart waiting to beat again. Elias pressed his forehead to the glass window. The condensation from his breath fogged the pain, but he didn't move. His eyes, sharp and unblinking, scanned the narrow road winding toward the horizon. Lukas stood beside him, quiet for once, his fingers twitching slightly against the cold surface. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Their waiting had spoken for them all morning. It had been weeks since they'd seen her. She had said nothing except that she was going for a short break, and then she vanished. No phone calls, no messages. The housekeeper, a woman they barely knew, came and went. She left groceries and folded towels, but avoided their questions. And now she was coming home, a hum in the distance, an engine. Gravel cracking under tires, the boys perked up. Elias stood on tiptoe, his heart thumping faster than it had in days. Lukas narrowed his eyes, his mouth tightening in uncertainty. A sleek black car came into view, kicking up a swirl of dust behind it. It pulled up to the long driveway. The engine cut, the door opened, she stepped out. And something inside Elias recoiled. The woman was tall, wrapped in an oversized coat and a wide-brimmed hat. But her face was a ghost, swathed in thick white bandages. She looked like a mummy freshly exhumed from some tomb. Only her eyes were visible, stark and unblinking, rimmed with shadows. Her steps were slow, deliberate, as if her feet weren't quite sure they were touching the earth. "Boys," she said, her voice muffled. But it wasn't the sound that chilled Elias, it was the flatness, the absence of warmth. She extended her arms, inviting them into an embrace, but the boys didn't move. Lukas shifted uncomfortably, and Elias took a small step backward. "Come here," she said again, this time sterner. Elias obeyed. Hesitantly, he walked into her arms, stiff and cold. Her coat smelled like antiseptic. Lukas stayed where he was, unmoving. Inside the house, the silence deepened. She removed her coat, revealing a tight-fitting dress that clung to her frame. Her hands moved stiffly as she set down her purse. The bandages on her face were freshly wrapped, pristine white. Elias noticed her gloves, thick and beige, concealing her fingers completely. She didn't take them off. "Things will be different now," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the hall. "There will be rules. No running, no screaming. No going into my room without permission." Her tone was sharp, not the soft lullabies of their mother, not the laughter that once filled the living room on rainy days. Elias looked to Lukas, who stood in the doorway, watching her with narrowed eyes. He said nothing, but Elias knew what he was thinking. "That's not our mother." Later, in their bedroom, they whispered under the covers. The room was dark, the only light coming from the red glow of Elias's nightlight, a small, plastic dinosaur whose eyes lit up when it sensed movement. "That's not her," Lukas said flatly, Elias hesitated. She's wearing bandages. Maybe she's just tired. Lukas didn't respond. Outside, they could hear her walking, slowly, deliberately, her footsteps heavy like someone dragging their shadow behind them. The next morning, she was already awake before them. Breakfast was laid out: toast, orange juice, hard-boiled eggs. But no cocoa. Their mother always made cocoa with cinnamon. "You forgot the cocoa," Elias said. "I didn't forget," she replied. "You don't need sugar anymore." "You're old enough." Lukas clenched his fists. "Mom always made us cocoa." She turned toward him sharply. "Enough, Elias." Elias's breath caught. Lukas had spoken. But she addressed him. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Lukas's expression darkened. After breakfast, she stayed in her room. The door was locked, the blinds closed. The boys stood in the hallway, listening. Sometimes they heard her pacing. Other times, the sound of running water, once a soft moan. They crept to the door and peered through the keyhole. The room was dim, a strange smell wafting from within, chemical and sweet, like flowers dipped in bleach. Then suddenly the lock turned. They jumped back just as the door swung open. She stood there, still bandaged, still unblinking. "I said," she hissed, "no spying." She raised her hand slowly, and for the first time, Elias saw her fingernails, black thick, not like their mother's hands. She slammed the door. That night, Elias lay awake. Lukas sat by the window, watching the cornfield sway gently in the wind. A full moon cast shadows across the wooden floor. "What if she's someone else?" Lukas whispered. "What if she took our real mom?" Elias didn't answer, because deep down, he was beginning to believe it. Something wasn't right. Her voice, her smell, her touch. And when he looked into her eyes, it wasn't love he saw. It was something colder, something hungry. The following morning, the sky hung low and grey, casting a ghostly pallor over the house. The light, filtered through a thin veil of clouds, felt muted, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Elias and Lukas sat in silence at the kitchen table. Their mother, the woman, moved methodically through the kitchen, her bandaged face betraying no expression, her movements precise and mechanical. She didn't look at them, didn't ask how they slept, didn't smile. "Eat," she said, placing plates in front of them. The food was plain. Dry toast, a sliced apple, no butter, no jelly, no warmth. Elias forced himself to chew, but his stomach knotted. He glanced at Lukas, who stared straight ahead, his plate untouched. "Where's the cat?" Elias asked suddenly. "They're great, Abby." Leo hadn't been seen since the day before. He usually slept at the foot of their bed or meowed impatiently in the mornings for food. She didn't look up. "There is no cat." Elias blinked. "What? You don't have a cat? You're imagining things." He turned to Lukas. "You saw Leo yesterday, right in the garden." Lukas nodded slowly. Their mother set her knife down on the counter with a sharp click. "There is no cat," she repeated more firmly. You're confusing dreams with reality. Elias, again. Elias stared at her. Again. That night, the boys explored. The house was unnaturally still. The only sound the creaking of floorboards beneath their bare feet. Lukas led the way, flashlight in hand. The hallway stretched long and narrow, and the air felt colder than usual. As if the walls were exhaling, they avoided her room, careful to step over the squeaky floorboard near the door. In the basement, the air was thick with dust and cold like a cave. They moved past storage boxes and old furniture draped in white cloth. Elias shined the flashlight toward the back of the room. There amidst bags of frozen vegetables and ice packs was Leo. His eyes were wide open, frozen in a rictus of fear, rigid, cold. Dead, Elias gasped, stumbling backward. Lukas grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "We have to go," Lukas whispered. "She's dangerous." They ran. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She watered the plants, hummed a strange, unfamiliar tune under her breath, and sat at the table flipping through a magazine. The twins watched her from the hallway, hidden behind the doorframe. "She's lying," Elias whispered, "about the cat, about everything."